That's Shelley West and Jose Cuervo, which actually, I don't know if Jerry knew what we were talking about on AM Minnesota today, but it kind of ties into our program today. Jose Cuervo, because, you'd think that he's Hispanic or something. Anyway, we're going to talk about foreign exchange students. There's a need for some homes. Joe Melier of Pleasant View Estates fame. We used to visit all the time at Pleasant View Estates. Joe.
Yes, we did, Gordy. It's been a while.
Yeah, how awesome is that? How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great.
You're looking good.
Thank you. I'm
Fantastic.
excited to talk to you about kids.
In fact, you just went on a trip to visit with a foreign exchange student that you used to house.
I did. I was at a conference that was put on by CCI Greenheart, and from there I went to Turkey to visit a former student.
Turkey. I have not been to Turkey.
Turkey's a wonderful country.
Good food?
Yes.
She hesitated on that answer.
A lot of, the things that are different. So, yes, it was great. I saw Istanbul, and then I traveled to Cappadocia.
Cool. And Istanbul is where you're...
Yes, that's where my student is.
Okay.
And Mary also traveled to France after the conference.
Yep.
Oui.
I was an exchange student 30 years ago. In France. And we've maintained that relationship for 30-something years. It's a special relationship between a host family and a student, and it's something that lasts for a lifetime.
So you've been on both sides of the fence, so to speak.
I have not only been on that side of the fence, we have hosted 15 students over the years. I have sent my own child outbound for a semester abroad, and I've been an exchange student myself, and then now I'm also been working in the field of high school foreign exchange for 10 years.
Fantastic. You're the perfect person to be in the field. Really, because you've experienced it from both sides. Mary's from Lakeville. She's with CCI Greenheart. They're based in Chicago, right?
That's correct.
So give us a little more information about CCI Greenheart.
CCI Greenheart was established in 1985, and one of the things that really sets CCI Greenheart apart is that we have a focus on being green and conservation. All of our students are required to do volunteer service. This makes a fabulous impression out in the local communities. In fact, some of our students have in the past received presidential awards for volunteer service. We've also have some extremely active students this year. We have some real superstars that are doing community service, especially here in Faribault. We have a student, Vlad, who has just been a fabulous example of our grant program. We work with the State Department sponsored scholarship programs. Vlad is from Russia. We also have some other students, including Mohammed from Nigeria and Sebastian from Germany. Just to give you an idea, we have a number of different types of programs, and within the CCI umbrella we have over 60 countries that we work with. So right here in Faribault, Joe Melier has really established a great cluster, and she gets together with her students. They know her very well. She takes really good care of the students and working with the families, so she does a great job with that.
But they're looking for homes. We're still trying to talk Jerry into having a student at his house. We'll see if we can get that accomplished, because he's doing the camera work today for us. So we'll see if we can get him convinced on the program, and if you can convince Jerry, you can convince just about anybody, Mary and Joe.
We'll work on him.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. You may even physically see him arm twisted before the end of the program.
We're going to work on that.
Yes, we will.
The good thing is we get a couple extra minutes. How
Yes,
cool is
how about that?
You get a couple more extra minutes to twist Jerry's arm and have him host.
Oh, we have all morning.
The student. Now you had 16 kids in your home.
I've had 16 in my home. Yes. From Mexico, Brazil, Germany.
China.
I had one from France, China, Malaysia, Turkey, Nigeria, and Germany again. I've had several from Germany.
Are you German? Mealy.
Yes, my background is German.
Oh, okay.
That's a French
Mealy
name.
is French, right?
It
Well,
is.
It is, but I'm not.
Or, you're married into it, yeah.
I'm married into it. Yes, I did. Yes,
Yeah.
I did.
How about you, Mary? Are you German, French?
I consider myself a real mix. I married into a Scottish background, so.
So have you been to Scotland?
I have not, but I'm very well traveled and have lived in a number of places, but I've hosted from some very unusual countries. I've hosted from Azerbaijan, Tajikistan, Germany, Norway, Brazil, let's see, Mexico, Kyrgyzstan, Russia from the Siberian part and also from Volgograd, and Israel and Ghana. Right now I have two superstars at my house who actually competed once they arrived on a scholarship. They competed again for a scholarship opportunity to do some leadership workshops in Washington, D.C. So my young lady Nayera from Israel has done one of the workshops, and this week trustee from Ghana is in Washington, and she's learning about how to teach English when she returns to her home country. And this is just an example of working with some of the scholarship kids. Joe works with some of those special scholarship students as well, and they are real leaders that have been identified, and that's one of the types of students that we are looking for homes for. We particularly are looking for some really open-minded families, because those families may be hosting students that have a different, not just ethnic background, but maybe a different religious background. Some are Muslim, some might be Orthodox, some might have no religion. So it's very important for us to have very open-minded families who are very welcoming. And understand that these students are going to face a lot of challenges, and so we need to have very supportive and responsible host families that really love working with kids. They have to understand kids make mistakes, so that's an important component, helping them to overcome some of their challenges. We're really open to a lot of different types of families. Some of the families can be empty nesters. Especially those that have no kids at home. They have space. Maybe they always wanted to host, but now they have more space because they're...
Are you talking about Jerry?
I am kind of looking his way right now.
He's got to talk his wife into all this.
We also accept single individuals like Joe. Joe is a retired lady, and she hosts two students. She just has a really big heart, and so she was very excited about having students again, and she said that she wanted only to host if she could have two to keep each other company.
And it's worked out very well this year. It really
Where are they
has.
from, Joe?
The two that I have Mohammed from Ghana, who's
Nigeria,
I'm sorry. And then I have Sebastian from Germany, and they're both at the high school. And right now they're both on the tennis team.
And they get along well.
They get along like siblings.
Isn't that amazing?
And I'll tell you, they learned how to shovel snow and fight over who has to go out to do that.
Yeah, and they fight about who sits in the front seat of the car, and...
I never thought of that, Joe. I should host someone. I could have somebody shovel my walk. I never thought about that.
Take two, they're small.
Yeah. Yeah, take two.
I'm never home. Do you have to be home a lot?
You should be home, you know, you should be there for supper maybe a couple times a week.
I'm doing games all the time.
Yeah.
That probably wouldn't work.
Yeah, probably not. Otherwise, I would have approached you, Jerry. Gordy, believe me.
That's okay.
Yeah, we're looking for families that have a really solid foundation. The families provide a room, and it can be shared. For example, over the years, my daughter Catherine has shared her room with any number of students. We have a set of bunk beds, and we move them around our house depending on how many kids we have at what time. And so you can have a shared room, or they can have their own room depending on what a family has.
If they share a room, however, they have to have separate beds.
That's why we've got bunk beds.
Right, right.
The number one concern, is it language? Is that your number one question? Am I going to have a problem
I
with
don't
language?
find language to be a concern. We try to look at kids who have good language scores. They take an English language test, and we try to pick kids that have a pretty good English capabilities. Yeah. Um, no, English is not. It's mostly adjusting to your family.
And building that relationship.
Right.
We pay a lot of attention to making a good match between the student and the host family. If we have,
for example, I don't mean to interrupt, Mary, but
sure.
For example, let's use Jerry as an example.
Oh, good.
Jerry is, well, he's Mr. Farmer.
Okay.
He's really interested, obviously, in agriculture. So
Okay.
you would try and find a student, I'm assuming for him, that is really into agriculture, wants to learn more about ag and how it's done here in America.
Well, sometimes we also might focus on a student that would really be comfortable in a more rural environment. So maybe they live on a farm themselves. Or, for example, in Brazil it's very common to have kids that live on ranches. So they are really, they're used to a lot of kids that like horseback riding. Maybe they raise sheep or goats or something.
They're comfortable around animals and being out in the country, and they're not accustomed to transportation being right at their doorstep.
Yep, that can be a
kids.
challenge.
That's a challenge for a lot of kids, because in a lot of other countries, the public transport system is
Huge.
much better than it is here.
Like Germany, for example.
Yes.
Right, and Brazil, and Turkey even. There's a lot more public transportation, and the kids are used to that.
Yeah. But paying attention to what the family is telling us when we're making a match between the student and the host family is really key. Some of the things that we're looking for are, if the family has pets, we don't want to put a student that has pet allergies. We want to try to match the common interests and background. So if we have a family that's very active with choir, for example, we might select a student to show them that sings or is interested in musical productions, something like that. We want to make sure that there's some common interests and background so that we make a good match. We want the host families to feel appreciated. Mm-hmm. They are all volunteer families for our J1 program, but we also have an F1 program that is primarily for the private school, and Joe has some students that are also going to Bethlehem Academy.
Bethlehem Academy, by the way, is very open to whatever students we can find for them. They welcome the students, and they help us find homes for these kids, and they're usually very successful.
When the students are attending the private school, there is a stipend that is available to the host family. Those students are typically, but not always, from China. A lot of times there are multiple Asian countries that are very interested in Bethlehem Academy. One of the things they really like about BA is that they have a great school spirit, and they have a lot of activities that the students can get involved in. From a host family point of view, whether you host on a volunteer basis and have your student go to Faribault High School or any of the neighboring towns as well, that's
Medford,
something.
Kenyon, Wanamingo, Waterville, Alicia, Morristown,
Owatonna, Lakeville, any of
my
those.
territory is 120 miles, so if you're within 120 miles of Faribault, you can give me a call. Right,
wow.
Right.
Go see Joe.
I've had kids, and I have a student right now in Rochester, one near Austin. I have Mankato, two at Mary's house in Lakeville, because I can't be the local coordinator for my own kids, and neither can she, so she has my kids. But you know, these kids fill out an extensive application, so we know a lot about them. We know a lot about the things that they like to do. We know about their academics. We know about their home structure, if they're an only child, if they have 6 little siblings. We ask them how they feel about children under 5. We ask them about what they like to do in their leisure time.
The kids are really well screened. they are screened not only through the application process, but part of the application includes a personal interview, either through a State Department appointee or through an overseas program. And of course, when the students are applying for visas, they are again screened there as well, because the U.S. has a CVIS system that screens to make sure that there's not anything that would be derogatory in the application that could be a problem.
I want to talk a little bit about the kids that are here on scholarship. I've found over the years that those kids are the ones that are leaders.
They're motivated.
They're motivated. They excel. They have earned this trip.
And then some. They actually compete with more than 30,000 applicants to become one of 1,100 for the Flex program, and then the YES program. It's a little bit smaller, but those two programs are really neat. They're really the core of the State Department's initiative.
And I have found that those kids are just, outgoing and a lot of fun. Mary has hosted quite a few. I got my first one
more
this
than
year.
10 of them.
Yeah.
Over the years. That's going to be some of the more unusual countries that a lot of people haven't heard of right away. When we refer to kids like, I had a student from Lebanon and Ghana and Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Azerbaijan. These are all going to be some of those scholarship students. It's not the traditional student that you might have read about, grown up with, like from Germany or Norway.
It's a country that you have to Google and look for on the map.
And learn about their culture.
I have to tell you, when I was in high school, one of my best friends, 1 year, because they were only here 1 year, a foreign exchange student from Sweden.
Okay,
absolutely.
Good. Have you kept in contact?
No, unfortunately. We promised we would, and you know how that goes. You
sure.
write a couple letters.
We actually have a lot of those. We have a lot of Scandinavian countries also, still very popular, especially in Minnesota, where we have a lot of Scandinavian backgrounds here.
And kids on their application can also request a certain area of the country. Unfortunately, Minnesota doesn't hit high on the list.
Not usually. But you have one that did.
But I have one that requested this area, and he's from Germany, and so the weather is pretty close. But my young man from Nigeria a couple of weeks ago said, "This is not the winter that you warned me about." So he was expecting a lot more snow. He doesn't like the cold, so he's happy now.
Well, my girls from Ghana and Israel just needed to make that snowman this past week. They just had to do it. When we had that late snow, that's what they were going to be doing.
And it sounds like they might be able to do it again on Monday.
Great.
But the biggest issue that I've had this year is with the kids in my home. Homework, because
they don't have any?
Yeah, they do, but the concept about going home, doing it, and then taking it to school the next day and handing it in is
different.
I'm having trouble getting that across. The other thing is, and I know he's not listening to me.
Jerry can relate to this because he had this problem when he was a kid.
There
you go. Perfect, Jerry. There's another point for you. The other thing is food, because one of my young men, the one from Nigeria, is Muslim. So no pork.
Right,
no pork in my house.
Well, I think one of the even more so than the fact that there's no pork sometimes for our Muslim students, but it is a dramatic shift in diet. They are eating something totally different, and when they come and you're putting your meat, potatoes, and vegetable on your plate, they're looking at that as, what is this foreign concept that you are feeding me?
It goes back to Jerry's question. Gordy's question to me about.
She's got me and Jerry really confused.
I've got Jerry. I'm going to work
Jerry's on the mind.
Yes, he is. Gordy asked me about the food in Turkey. And it's that same thing that's going to happen to the kids when they get here. When they see a grilled cheese sandwich, they're going to wonder what the heck this is.
What is cheese? That's
cheese.
A big one.
Yeah. These kids don't eat cheese like we do.
Yep. It's very, very different.
But I think pork has been my biggest challenge this year. So I try to get it when I eat out.
Let me ask you ladies this. In her instance, in Joe's instance, she has 2 students.
Yes, she does.
One obviously is, are they both Muslim?
No, just one of them is.
So one is Muslim.
Yep.
Can't have pork. So you can't serve pork to the other student?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
The way that usually works is a family might be preparing a meal, and most of the students, even if they're Muslim, they're going to eat everything else that's out. So if she's made a ham, maybe she's also made baked potatoes and a vegetable, and that student is going to be eating everything else except the pork because of his religious background.
Easter in 2 days is a good example. I'm cooking Easter dinner. I am making ham, but I'm also making a turkey breast.
So there you go. They can choose what they would like to eat and what they feel most comfortable with. From a host family's point of view, they're most likely not going to be adapting a huge amount because this is what they're accustomed to eating, but they want to sometimes provide an alternative and allow that student.
Absolutely.
You know, if just as you might with your own kids, when I put a meal on the table, most of my kids will eat it, but maybe I have one of my kids says, "Oh Mom, I don't really like what you serve today," and what I say is, that's fine, you can take a taste, or you can go and make yourself a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and come sit at the table with us again.
One of the things that my German student did is several weeks ago, we were at the grocery store, and he was picking up some things for himself, gum and soda and whatnot, and he bought a pound of bacon. And when he was making lunch one time on the weekend, he fried up the bacon for himself, knowing that Muhammad couldn't eat it. Not all kids that say on their application that they're Muslim
are practicing. That's another indication, actually. We have on the application, they do try to describe their religious background a little bit in terms of frequency of attendance and things like that. And some countries are going to be culturally more conservative than others. You might find, for example, with some of the former Soviet Union countries, that even though the student may indicate that they consider themselves Muslim, really what they mean is that their grandmother was Muslim, but culturally the Soviet Union had a tendency to squash religion, and so they don't feel that they are particularly Muslim because of governmental restrictions and whatnot. So they consider themselves that they're ethnically Muslim, but if you ask them, they'll say, "Oh, well, you know, we here's what we serve at our house, and it's full of ham and bacon and lots of different things." So
then you don't have to worry about it.
Again, here on AM Minnesota today, Mary Armstrong is the lovely blonde over there, and Joe Melier is to my left, and I'm Gordy Kosfeld hosting AM Minnesota today. CCI Greenheart is based in Chicago. Mary lives in Lakeville. Joe lives in Faribault. And how do people get a hold of you if they're interested? You have a website, I would assume.
We do. Our website is www.cciggreenheart.org.
Greenheart's one word? One
word. Greenheart.
And if you go onto that website and fill out an inquiry, it will get to Mary, and if it's in this area, it'll get to me.
Yep.
And you'll get a call.
We are happy to help people. You can also call Joe directly at
507-330-1592.
And you're looking for homes for what students now, currently?
Well, it's pretty wide open right now.
We have a couple of Chinese students that are going to be coming to
BA,
to Bethlehem Academy. And then on a wider front, for the public schools, we have over 60 countries. So we have some students that we are trying to match, particularly with families. What we're doing is we are looking for the families first so that we can bring the families to look at our options, because we have a number of different types of students to fit with what the family's background is. A host family provides a room, meals, and a caring and supportive environment. We want to encourage the students to get involved in extracurricular activities and be involved with their families. So we need to have families that really embrace this idea and want to have active students.
They want to be a family again.
They do.
Right. And these kids typically are very active, and I will use Vlad as an example.
Oh, he's awesome.
Vlad is our young man from Russia. He's blind. Since he came to Minnesota, he has gone rock climbing. He has gone tubing.
He's on the swim team.
He's on the swim team. He is spending part of his day at the blind school, and one of the coaches there said, "Vlad, have you ever wrestled?" And he said, "No, but I'll try." And he ended up at the national wrestling tournament for the blind.
Can you imagine that?
And took third place.
He is like absolutely
fearless.
Our poster child, if you will, for that program.
And he is so much fun. We should have brought him down here today.
We should have, because he's neat.
He is just a hoot. I just laugh and laugh when I'm spending time with him. He's living with a single parent who works with the sight impaired, and so she has lots of tricks and
she's just very knowledgeable
about all the adaptive things. She was able to get some adaptive things for the kitchen, and so Vlad cooks once a week now.
That's one of his things that he thinks is just great. He's learned some new skills while he's here. He came on the scholarship program, and one thing to note is that the State Department actively wants to provide opportunities for students with disabilities, especially since they don't always have the same opportunities in their home countries. So they are able to come. Sometimes we have students who are deaf, sometimes they are blind. This year we have a young lady from Moldova who is wheelchair bound. So we are definitely looking for a family that would be able to accommodate a young lady in a wheelchair.
That would be fantastic to get her in our little group here in Faribault. If someone has a home that's handicap accessible for a wheelchair, we certainly would love to talk to you. Also, my host parent who has Vlad this year is definitely has said she wants another student who's blind next year.
Well, I've only got a little over a minute left in the show.
Okay.
Didn't this show
fly by? It did.
It certainly did. So again, if you're interested, get a hold of one of these ladies or check out the website. I have one final question before I let you go, Mary, because I'm just curious. When you were a foreign exchange student, when you were in France, what do you think you gained from that experience?
I gained so much. The family relationship is paramount for us. We've continued that. I gained my language ability. When I go back and when I go different places, they ask, "Where are you from in France?" Because I speak like a native now.
Oh.
And that's something that we notice with the kids. If we look at them when they come in August and then are saying goodbye to them in June, their English language skills are totally higher, much higher.
They're amazing kids.
You're cutting us off.
Sounds like it. Thanks, ladies, for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it. Thanks,
CCI Greenheart.org.
We're heading to Italy, so we won't be with you the next 2 weeks. Jerry and John will be hosting this show the next couple of weeks. I don't know. I'm not going to even. You're in good hands with those guys. So they will be your host the next couple of weeks for our AM Minnesota programs. KDHL AM, Faribault, Minnesota.